We are witnessing a massive event right now in the world of crypto, and something broke a little less than 24 hours ago that could have really big implications for Bitcoin and the crypto space. We are on a crypto crash warning. And I know that we've been talking over the last couple of days about why we do believe the bull market will continue. And I want you to be very clear. We're not saying the bull market is over, but there is something that has come to our attention. The DOJ has been given the green light to sell over $6.5 billion worth of Bitcoin, almost double what Germany did back in the summer. So with this type of information, we have to step back from the table. We have to remove all of our emotions. We have to examine the charts, the news, and understand what the next step will be. There are some fishy details that we're going to get into, but we know there's a lot of you right now freaking out. Some of you maybe even sold today. Make sure to watch this entire episode so you can understand just what is going on with this information, what the next move more than likely or could be over the next couple of weeks, and how you set yourself up, whether we go to the upside or the downside. What do you do to make sure you protect your wealth? This is the Investing Bros. Make sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, but first, we got to roll the intro. All right, we got a lot to go into today. We got to fix that. I think it mutes the beginning of what I say. So we got to fix when my mic comes back on. But either way, we got a lot to get in here today, guys. Got a lot of news to break down. Got a lot of charts to take a look at. We were talking about it in our planning meeting. And I'm going to introduce guys here in a second. But there are days to have a lot of fun. And there's days to sit and be serious. And today's kind of a serious day. We really need to analyze what the next move could be. And I don't want to say that in a way to scare people and make them think, oh my gosh, is Tim flipping majorly bearish after being bullish for the last couple of days? That's not what's going on here. That being said, though, we live in a crazy world with a lot of crazy details. And something just came out of left field that we didn't know about until yesterday that could have major implications. So make sure you stick around for the entire thing. It's going to be a very important show, what we discussed today. But first, I'm joined by two fine gentlemen right here. Let's start off with Smay. Smay, by the way, next week I have a hat for you. How do you feel about that?
I'm so excited to have a hat that is not this, but it's that. It's Investing Bros. I'm so excited.
There you go. Teacher, how you doing today? I like the button up. You're looking professional. Were you golfing today? What's going on over there?
Something like that. I'm feeling professional today, but I think a lot of people are out there feeling a little bit scared by this headline. We're going to get into it, and we're going to hopefully put some minds at ease, but I'm feeling better than I deserve. Still feeling at peace. How are you doing today, Tim?
I'm good. I can't complain about anything. We had a great live trading session earlier, made some money, lost some money, ended net positive, though. We were trading a lot of SUI and Ondo. With scalping over in our trading community. If you guys want to be a part of that, you want to learn how to trade and trade with an amazing community, make sure to check out the bros links down below to join our memberships today. But let's go ahead and get in here. Let's get into look at the markets, starting off with the bubbles as we always do. As you would expect, it's a sea of red here. There is a pocket of coins that are in the green, barely. But for the most part, things are losing. And you're going to see the biggest losers are the coins that had a little bit of a pop-up here. Virtual had a hot rally recently. It's down 14. AI16Z, this is a newer coin in the top 100. It's down 21%. Hype had some glory days in the last couple of weeks. It's down 17.4% or so. Rune is down as well. But the sea of red, most everything is down. And of course, a lot of this having to do with the news we got last night about the DOJ. It's not as down as far as it really could be. And that's what's kind of leading into some confusion about what's going to happen right now. It is very important to note and that the markets, the TradFi markets, if you don't trade traditional finance, you just trade crypto, TradFi is not trading today. It is the funeral for former President Jimmy Carter. They did take off in the stock market. So that's going to affect some volume. So it'll be very interesting to see how this all unfolds tomorrow when TradFi markets open back up, when traditional traders and investors come back into the market to see what's going on. But it is a whole sea of red, and we don't want to ignore the fact that that is a detail that you guys should be looking at. But now let's get in here and let's begin to break down on the Bitcoin chart what is going on. Of course, if the bears have their way, there's going to be a massive sell-off of Bitcoin from the DOJ. We're going to explore some of the details of that here in just a couple of minutes with T-Shroom. But this is something we've been talking about for the last couple of days. Remember, we told you guys the pullback that happened over the last 2 days really didn't have a strong explanation. There wasn't a great reason for it. And we told you this kind of sniffed and stunk of manipulation. Well, now we found the culprit. Clearly, it seems that since the 30th, the DOJ has had the approval. That's going to go way back here. They've been sitting on this information. They found out back here when Bitcoin was at $92,000, they found out that they got the green light to sell Bitcoin. Well, of course, they let that price rally up, get back up above 100,000. And even though there's evidence that they haven't sold it yet, it's hard to believe that there aren't some people that found out this information early and that this recent sell-off that has happened was because of that information. But now we get into the question mark. We get into the decision point of, will this long-term support end up holding up? If you're wondering what I'm talking about, I have a nice red line here, but let's redraw that. And in fact, at the moment, these things have kind of gotten busted. Let's get rid of a lot of these other support and resistance line. Let's get a really clean-looking chart in here. This one too. Don't need you. We had a nice support level right in here ever since back on November 27th. We'll go ahead and draw the bottom level of this coming in somewhere right here around 90,000. Upper ranges, we had several touches just above 92,000. But this is a nice, strong support level that Bitcoin has been under since late November. And you can see after bouncing and having great buy signals once, twice, 3, 4, 5, now 6 times, the question's going to become, do we break through or do we go above? And what makes it a little more confusing here is that if we were doing nothing but lower highs since this time, let's pretend that the high back here was actually over here and then we consistently set lower highs, this would be a descending triangle, which would be a very bearish formation. But what's confusing is during this time period, we've had bullish trends, of course, starting back here in November, where we still set higher highs and higher lows. Then we came back down. We came back down, set a lower low for the first time, set a lower high, and came back down, set a slightly lower low, and then bounced back up above 100,000, putting in a brand new high, a higher high in this trend. So there's not a consistent trend right here. There is, some analysts are going to look at a potential head and shoulders pattern. And what you can kind of see is a left shoulder over here, a head. Now this is getting a very nasty looking, I don't know what you call that. Would that be a pimple? I don't know what we were talking about, but a good head position right here. And then this recent rally we've had over the last couple of days, you got yourself a right shoulder in a head and shoulders pattern. This, of course, if it ends up playing out, we'll make the neckline here around the $92,000 mark, which is what Bitcoin's price is wrestling with at the time of this video. The potential breakout of this movement we talked about yesterday could bring the price all the way down here. This is all over the place. $77,000, $78,000. Ultimately, what you need to know is sub $80,000. And we told you yesterday, and I'll reiterate today, this is the time to go ahead and start making your investment strategy. Yesterday, when we did the show, we did not know about the DOJ, but we said, hey, if things get bearish and if we lose $90,000, all of a sudden, we're watching this $78,000, $77,000 mark, this head and shoulders pattern breakout, that should be on the table. Well, now we have our catalyst. I'm going to give my opinion on that in just a little bit. I just want to kind of focus on the charts here for a couple of minutes. And then throughout the show, I'll tell you what I'm actually doing and processing this information, this news, and what I think the next move would be. But I want you to be prepared. This is the portion of the show where we say could go up, could go down. Just want to forewarn you. We're going to break it down for you how to prepare for it. But we're sitting on a complicated, long-term, 2-month-long support level here around 92,000. If this is lost, and again, we're really looking for sub 90K levels, all of a sudden, especially if the volume starts to pick up, sub 80K is back on the table. This would be a loss for Bitcoin if it does play out somewhere in the world of roughly just below 30%. It's 28% of a move to the downside. That's not the end of the world. I know some people are going to act like that's crazy, but it's really not. While it would be one of the larger pullbacks during this bull market, it actually wouldn't even be the largest one. The largest pullback Bitcoin has seen, of course, was back when we eclipsed a brand new all-time high. We got up towards $73,000, almost $74,000. And over the period of multiple months, we ended up falling 33% back down below 50K very briefly. Of course, we skyrocketed back up and shortly after started heading towards brand new all-time highs. But I say all this to say, while I am not guaranteeing you a 28% pullback and a price to break below 80,000, you do need to understand when you're looking at the charts and you see what we just saw in the news, the possibility and the purpose or the excuse to break down this far did just reveal itself as something to be aware of. But now we're going to come back to the Bitcoin charts here in a little bit. We're going to start transitioning and start talking about this information. I'm going to bring T-Shroom on here. You can go off my screen for a second. A couple of things that I find very interesting, and I'm going to give my opinion after this, but a couple of things that I find very, very interesting. First of all, the DOJ got this approval on the 30th, over a week ago. Why are we just finding out about it last night? That in and of itself reeks of manipulation. But secondly, when we actually go in and look at the wallets, they haven't sold any of it, which makes you ask the question, how much of this is actual information and how much of this is FUD for manipulative purposes? Do we potentially see a world in which this is fake information, not fake that they have the approval, but fake that they're actually going to sell it in a way that drops us that far? Is this actually a manipulative move that is allowing whales, institutions, and the buddies of the elites to buy discounted Bitcoin while the retail market is left out in the cold with this information and ends up selling off? These are things we need to start asking the questions about. Let's get in the details of the story. Let's go back to the charts, and I'm going to reiterate what my trading strategy and investment strategy looks like on Bitcoin. But I want to throw it to you, T-Shroom. If there's any other details I'm missing out on, let's enter this discussion. What's going on with the DOJ?
Oh, yeah. Well, you might be a little bit confused out there watching and saying, but I see headlines saying that, the United States government selling, the DOJ's approved to sell, but they haven't actually sold yet. So the answer is no. And we know this because there's something called on-chain analysis, and you can use on-chain analysis tools to identify what addresses have sold, how much they currently hold, and how much they're buying. So what we can do is, if you go over to my screen, Smay, this is intel.arkham.com. This is not any kind of secret information. This is publicly available, and you don't even have to have a subscription for this particular dashboard. But as you can see here, this is labeled the U.S. government, Silk Road, individual, plus the FBI confiscated funds. That's totaling right around $6.4 billion. Okay. And then you can go over here. Now, this looks like a whole bunch of crazy data, and it might be scaring you and look too complicated. It's not. Look, you hit separated between transfers, inflows, and outflows. And if we click outflows, there is nothing. There is nothing there, right? And because of the nature of blockchain, the reason why people buy Bitcoin, because it's so secure and reliable, is that if this doesn't have anything here, that means that it hasn't sold. Okay, so I'm showing you right now here, right at 3:13 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that in fact the U.S. government has not sold according to this on-chain tool. Okay, there's been plenty of inflows because anybody can send to these addresses. They're public addresses, and people will, come up with reasons to send money to these addresses, even though that's a silly thing to do overall. But that's the meat and potatoes of it. They haven't sold, and we know they haven't sold. And so what this does is it causes this frenzy, right? That's pretty well personified here, is of people saying, "Oh, look, it's sold. It's sold." It's not sold. Nobody sold anything, right? And so you can go off my screen now. If you think of the game theory of this, right? The DOJ got authorized to sell on December 30th. Okay, I can make a case for why, if I was Joe Biden, or if I was a motivated individual to sell Bitcoin and cause disaster in an industry maybe I don't like, right, or I think is a threat to an industry that I have been boosted by TradFi, right? If I have some motivation, I can understand why I wouldn't sell in December, right? Because we're about to hit a new year. There might be some kind of tax or some kind of legal implication to me selling in 2024. So I'm going to wait, right? So that could explain why they didn't immediately start selling when the DOJ gave them the permission to, right? But as the further you get into January, it starts not making sense. Why would you wait? Okay, you could understand maybe the first couple of days they're a weekend, all right? But then the further you get into it, it's like, okay, well, now we've had several business days where the stock market's been open. There really doesn't make any sense. And if you look back at the way that Germany sold, when Germany sold their Bitcoin, very dumb. But when they did it, they didn't sell it all at once. They sold it over time because they understand the impacts to the market that it would have. So that leaves the only last case that if they are going to sell it, they're probably, because they haven't started selling it in chunks in January, that if they did sell it, they'd sell it all at once. And that would just be such a huge disrespectful move to an industry that is now too powerful, right? And that would be crypto interests, and also, really big names like Fidelity, BlackRock, and many others. So this leads me all to believe that this is not happening. Did the DOJ get approval or give approval to sell? It did. That's where we are, though, that nothing has been sold. It doesn't look like there has been a small amount sold. So that's where we are. Like there's really nothing to fear. And from my experience in crypto, this is far from the first time that we've had this headline, that we've seen this type of headline where the US government moved funds, right? And then there's speculation, are they going to sell it? Or somebody within the government says they're going to sell it, but then you find out, oh, they don't actually have the power. They were just issuing an opinion. When there is a big opportunity for the media and specifically the financial media to come out and spook the market and scare the market, they will when it's convenient to them. You notice that they weren't bringing this information out December 30th when it first broke, right? When did they bring this out? When Bitcoin's hitting a low in the channel. Mm-hmm. So it's FUD, it's manipulation. We got manipulated to the upside. Tim already told you that. I agree with him. And I didn't immediately agree with him. It kind of took me a minute to really assess what was going on. And then absolutely, it makes sense that they manipulated it to the upside. And this, who's they? It's a lot of different groups, hedge funds mostly, who understand this game. They play it all the time in the stock market. And Bitcoin and crypto, volatile assets, a lot more retail and global retail. Anybody can buy and sell crypto. It's got an internet connection. These guys are just going to go for it. And that's what we're seeing today.
Yeah, let's kind of break down just what people need to fully understand here and what T-Shroom's saying and kind of what I'm saying as well. Yeah, Fade and Tradify says the composite man. Absolutely. This is a composite man move. If you guys are not familiar with that expression, if you haven't been watching our show for a while, we're big believers in the Wyckoff theory of how markets move around. And Wyckoff has this theory called the composite man that says you have to imagine one entity called the composite man trading against you, the retail investor, at all times. That composite man is made up of whales and institutions and very wealthy, powerful individuals that control the media and control the massive volume. But if you understand their tactics, you have tendencies and tactics to still make money as a retail investor. And that's what I want to get into right now. As T-Shroom said, all this coming out, let's go back to my screen. All this coming out, as I said before, on the major support level that we've been tracking for multiple months. I am on board with T-Shroom 100%. I'm on board with him that I do not believe that we're actually going to see a catastrophe happen here. I think there's a very strong likelihood that we have some sort of fake out. We maybe even wick down slightly below this $90,000 level as some form of a trap. But if we don't see increased volume on that breakout, there's a very high likelihood that this ends up being a manipulative move to convince the average retail investor to think they understand everything perfectly and sell off, all the while things go to the upside. But I want to be open to the concept of being wrong here. I don't get everything right. And using the composite man theory and acting as if they have an opportunity to manipulate us, therefore they will, doesn't always work out either. So you have to explore the possibility of saying, what if they do start to sell? Even though we don't think they will, we want to be aware of how to act if they do. First thing I want to make sure you guys are clear on. Yes, this is more Bitcoin than what Germany sold. But when Germany started selling their Bitcoin back here in June of 2024, we would watch over the next couple of weeks. And not that I think it's going to take that long, but we watched over the next couple of weeks, Bitcoin would fall over 25%. All right. The price of Bitcoin is a lot higher. It's going to be a lot harder to fall that significantly, but we still could see a big level. This target to me is still a very, very good target to keep an eye on, around $78,000. As T-Shroom mentioned, they're not going to sell all of it if they do it once, because if they put it all on an exchange and sell it, by the time they fill their last order, the price would be a whole lot lower. For me, $78,000, $77,000 is kind of my worst case scenario for this pullback if it does happen. But how do I plan on navigating these markets to make sure it's happening? Well, let me start off by talking to my long-term holders, my hodlers, my guys who have been buying Bitcoin for years, holding on to it. You're not swing trading it. You're not selling it. You are at least holding it till perceived top of the bull market, and this is not that. Don't sell. Do not sell. We're just going to put a big X. Do not sell right here. Do not worry about it. Let everything ride. If you have any dry powder, or if you have a way to create some dry powder in the next couple of days, maybe don't buy at this level. Maybe don't buy until you do see sub $80,000, but do not sell. And ultimately, I don't give financial advice, but if you do want to follow what I'm doing, I'll just tell you, with my long-term portfolio, which makes up more than 80% of my crypto investments, I'm not selling a single Satoshi. All right. I will look. I guarantee you, if we see sub 80, I have some dry powder. Depending on when we get into it, I might have acquired more dry powder. I will be buying sub 80K should it present itself. So that's the first thing. And what I would say is, let's pretend, hodlers, we don't drop below 90,000 and we start to make a move back to the upside, and Bitcoin starts going, if I can grab this marker correctly, and Bitcoin starts going to the upside and starts setting new all-time highs, or gets close to setting new all-time highs. Well, at that point, I'm probably not buying more Bitcoin, because then I start to re-explore, all right, we're in a market sensitive move right now that's not making much sense, but Bitcoin dominance is probably going to start falling again. Altcoin season is probably going to start. So let's say I had $20,000 of dry powder. I would probably buy $20,000 of Bitcoin at $78,000. But if it goes back up of 100K and I'm sitting on that dry powder, I'm probably looking for a more volatile, better return on my investment altcoin to choose. At that point, choose your poison. Chainlink, AVAX, XRP, Solana, everything in an altcoin season will outpace the gains of Bitcoin. But that's my strategy for my long-term holders, my long-term investors. What about my traders, though? Because this is a trading community as well. This is where the glory of a stop loss comes in. I'm going to go ahead and talk about some things that in our trading group, we are in a long-term a long-term low leverage trade on Bitcoin, where our first entry was way back here at $90,000. Okay. That doesn't mean that we're going to hold on this forever. I think currently our stop loss is sitting somewhere south of 85,000, but with this new information and the way we've been trading, this is such a strong support level that if it was lost, we would have so far to drop. I am setting my stop loss. I'm setting my stop loss down here a little bit below 85, a little bit below 90. I'm probably going to drop it a little bit for 89, just in case there is, like I said, a small fake out to the downside, low volume fake out that then shoots to the upside. I don't want to put this right at 90,000, but I want to be close to that area. Why? Because I will be in loss. Again, I think we have a 5x leverage trade here. If my average, if my lowest point was right there, we fall about 2%, I will lose 10% of my position, but I'll gain the opportunity to reinvest that same trade somewhere in down here. Again, if I started 90,000, if I could get down here sub 80K, I'm saving myself a 5 times 13. I'm terrible with math, but guys, that's going to be 65% gains that I can save myself, or 65% losses I can save myself, and then I can reinvest for ongoing bull market. If we continue to hold this support level and make a bounce to the upside, good. I'm already in my position and I'll benefit from that long term. But what you do not want to do is lose your head right now and mass sell your long-term holdings, mass sell your short-term trades just because we're sitting on support and the news looks bad. This is a very classic, tale as old as time, manipulative news story that has not yet bit with teeth, that is causing a lot of retail investors right now to freak out. And we've seen this happen before, and we've witnessed out of 100 times, 70% of the time we see a story like this, the price ends up doing this. So that is why I'm sitting here saying, and I want to reiterate for anyone who's just joining, I have zero plans to sell my Bitcoin. I have zero plans to sell my crypto. I believe that we are going to see a reversal here very, very soon, that this whole move was a composite man manipulative sell signal that's going to cause retail to sell, but institutions to buy their dips and make some money. However, I'm preparing myself for worst case scenario. I'm preparing myself for if this does come to fruition and we go sub 80K, and I'm setting a stop loss on my trades and looking for re-entries when I see confirmation below $80,000. So hopefully that helps a whole lot of people out there. Listen, if you have a different strategy, a different tactic that you love, I love that. I am not here so that you guys copy me verbatim. I'm very aware that with my position as an influencer that comes on every single day and shows the markets, there are probably a lot of you that look at me and say, Tim, what do I do now? I'm freaking out. I want you to know that I am doing the best I can every single day to navigate the markets. And if I make a mistake and you follow me, well, I'm losing money, you're losing money, we're losing money together. But when I gain money, you'll gain money as well. But that's not the end goal for me. I want you to develop your own trading strategies. I want you to make more money than I even make because you've learned how to read the markets, read the news, read the charts, and invest properly. And in the world of investing, sometimes if you want to make a lot of money, you got to take some risk. And there's not a single risky person out there. There's not a single investor or trader that has never lost on taking a risk. That's part of the game. So that's why we have these could go ups, could go downs. We'll tell you what we think. We'll tell you where we're putting our money, but we will prepare you as well, just as we prepare ourselves. If we are wrong and price goes much lower, how should we respond? That's the strategy we are looking for. T-Shroom, I want to go a little further in here. We got 1,700 people in here. Thank you so much for being here. Smash the like, everybody. We did just break 40,000 subscribers yesterday. How fast can we get to 50? Hit the subscribe button. Get us to 50,000 subscribers here very, very soon. Another thing that we're kind of tracking right now, and we mentioned it a little bit throughout this story, but one of the people that benefits the most from something like this would be a BlackRock, right? When I talk about composite man and I talk about manipulative players, BlackRock is absolutely one of the ones fitting the bill. And there's information out there right now that's conflicting. I've seen reports of people saying that they're buying, other things now saying they're selling. We see actually a report that came out today, I think from Arkham. I want to break in and look at the details of it, but they're claiming that BlackRock is selling, in which case, if that was true, we would have to then say, if BlackRock is selling as well, and we're seeing that evidence in front of us, that might aid to a lower price coming in. But can we take a look at that article and take a look at the breakdown and the details of it to understand what is true, what is not? Is BlackRock buying? Is BlackRock selling? How should people respond to this news? Let's go to that article right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, we're going back to the on-chain data here, right? And there are indeed outflows, right? We looked at the the one on the DOJ, which is the Silk Road one. There are no outflows, right? However, with BlackRock, there's constant outflows because it's an ETF, right? They're doing it every day, multiple times a day to rebalance their ETF. With that said, I'm more concerned with the scale because directionality is not necessarily the interesting thing here because there's outflows, there's also inflows, right? There's inflows for sure. But if you look over here at the net inflows for all ETFs, okay, if you look at the title here, total Bitcoin spot ETF net inflows yesterday was negative. So that is the smoking gun. I'm sorry, the 7th. So January 7th was a negative day. So not yesterday, but the day before. This is showing, and it also was a pretty sizable amount of outflows, right? So, you got to kind of ask the question though, like, is this putting what came first, chicken or the egg? Is the FUD making these people sell, or is these people selling the FUD in and of itself? And so it's cascading and more selling. I think the reality is that there's going to be selling when for taking profits. There's going to be selling when it gets scary, right? When there's major scary headlines. But at the end of the day, you also have people that are buying at the same time. And for every seller, there's a buyer. Now that buyer could be buying at a lower price than maybe bulls would want, but ultimately it is true. And this is kind of the way that Arkham puts it here. Guys have some bad news. BlackRock is not buying. In fact, they are selling, right? So that's the fact of the matter. It's true, right? But if you look back at this so chart here, this is the net inflows. If you look at the weekly, we are coming out of a huge period of buying where institutions said, we just wrapped up our board appointed research into this whole Bitcoin thing. The guys did a great job in the report. I think we're going to make an allocation. That's what this huge lump in the second half of 2024 is all about. That is tapered off because they have made those actions, right? And now when they're waiting for the inauguration, that catalyst that we've been anticipating for quite some time, since November 5th, since the election. So that's essentially kind of my read. Are they selling? There's no way to dispute it. There is selling happening, and it is one of the larger red histograms we've seen on this chart. By the way, this is the full history of the ETF inflows. But if you look at the overall story, we're coming off a period of exceptional buying, and we're likely to see a lot more buying because that big bullish catalyst is coming, which is Donald Trump getting elected, a pro crypto, pro Bitcoin president, being elected, being in the actual office, and then to some extent saying that there is going to be a Bitcoin reserve. That is the big catalyst that of the next huge wave, the next big lump of green buying from these ETFs. That's what's going to cause them to come in. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my read of it all. Is there selling happening? Yes, but if you zoom out, price is higher.
There's something I want to take a look at. Show your screen. Show that the graph there, and then there was show the tweet actually. Show the tweet that kind of caused the fear. The actual tweet where it says, "Guys, they're selling," and I want to break down kind of what's going on here. Maybe you don't have it. Do you have the tweet that Arkham put out saying, "Sorry to apologize to you guys"? Maybe scroll up. That's DOJ. We're talking about We're talking about is BlackRock. There we go. Got some bad news. BlackRock's not buying. In fact, they're selling. I don't know where it is. There was a tweet that when we were doing our research, so you guys have to track with me here. One of the arguments they made was that a couple of days ago, again, they're talking about when we were up back above 100,000, that BlackRock had $61 billion. Their ETF had $61 billion of Bitcoin. And now, at the time of making that report, it was at 51 billion. So like, oh, clearly they sold some stuff off. It's about a 17% pullback, which is slightly larger than the 10% pullback in price action. So did BlackRock technically sell some Bitcoin? Absolutely they did. But first of all, they did not sell, as this report leaded people to believe, 20% off, because first of all, it's not even down 20%. Going to my chart right here, Bitcoin at the time that article was created, that dip was already down 10%. That in and of itself, just the price being down causes anyone's holdings to drop significantly. But as Tisham even put out there, what people need to make sure they're aware when it comes to ETFs, while I absolutely do believe that BlackRock has a private holding of Bitcoin, and it's actually not a belief, they do, it's been tracked. This number that they're selling Bitcoin is simply in response to their ETF holders. When we're looking at, they had $61 billion worth of Bitcoin, that wasn't BlackRock's personal pocketbook. That is, they were holding over $61 billion worth of Bitcoin for their ETFs, for their clients, and some of those clients have sold off. Why? Because just like in normal markets on Coinbase or on Blofin or on CoinW or on Binance or on Kraken, there's weak-handed people who are selling off in fear. That's clear. That's clearly going to happen. But I want to make sure I'm just dismantling some FUD that made it seem like BlackRock had sold 20% of their Bitcoin holdings. That's not actually how that works in the first place. And secondly, more than half of that pullback just came because the price of Bitcoin has fallen over 10% in the last 2 days. So I want to make sure we're dispelling all of that. With that said, we've been saying this entire show, Bitcoin at the moment is wrestling with 91,000. It is something that you guys should be aware of. It's wrestling with 91,000. But as Tisham and I've been saying here a lot, there's still a lot of indicators. There's still a lot of support and reasons to believe that this is a manipulative move, that whether we stop right here, whether we come a little bit lower, there is a world, and a reasonable world with backed up examples where Bitcoin very well could bounce right here off this news, causing retail to sell down here. They're freaking out, saying, I don't want to hold the bag as everything drops, but the price shoots to the upside. But there's also a world in which the price ends up moving to the downside. We're sitting here exploring what dominoes have to fall to cause either one to happen. At the moment, we're leaning towards bullish, but we'll keep you posted over the weekend and over the week next week on how that works. But Tisham, I heard you chime in there a little bit. Anything you wanted to add to that statement?
Well, we have some bullish news too. This is the thing, is like, we are in a high pressure cooker moment, right? And if you're invested in Bitcoin and crypto, you're invested in something that there's a lot of people that are motivated to hate, right? There's a lot of people who are scheduled to lose power and influence because of the rise of crypto. So there's a lot of interested parties who are incentivized to spread the FUD, to participate in the spread of this information. It's not misinformation; it's just information that the DOJ approved a thing, right? That's what it is. And so, but all the while, this industry is headed higher. It's headed to greater adoption. You have the largest asset manager in the world, BlackRock, and Fidelity and many others that are on board. They're collecting fees for the sale of Bitcoin and Ethereum. They're incentivized to do a thing that is good for the industry, just in the same way that there are entities in TradFi like Vanguard that are incentivized to suppress and to keep down and to minimize the impact and the adoption of Bitcoin and other crypto. But it's not just BlackRock. They're not doing it alone. Of course, there's MicroStrategies, and if you go to my screen, Smay, there is Standard Chartered. So 1 trillion AUM Standard Chartered to offer Bitcoin and crypto custody services in the EU. The service launch follows the establishment of a new entity in Luxembourg, aligning with EU's MiCA regulations. They manage 870 billion and 1 trillion positions itself as a key player in crypto finance. The expansion reflects a broader trend of financial and institutional exploration, crypto markets, and following regulatory approvals. This is from The Investing Bros, one of the top sources of information in crypto. So this is bullish. This is extremely bullish. Now, Standard Chartered, they're not getting started here with crypto. They've been involved. You've heard us talk about them. They're famous for their price predictions. They predicted 100,000 Bitcoin in 2024 in like March, right? Who would have thought? So they're smart, right? And they're getting ahead of the curve. Mm-hmm. So while retail is getting fudded out, the little guy is getting frightened and shaking in its boots because of things circulating on crypto Twitter and in the news. The big guys are just taking another incremental step forward, right? Step forward. And there's a podcast that I really like that Chris Inks produces over on his YouTube channel. We love Chris Inks. And he has on some guys who worked in the hedge fund industry, and those guys are hearing more and more that the Morgan Stanley's clients, Wells Fargo's big high level, big money clients, talking about people that don't get a relationship without $10 million of invested capital, they're starting to ask questions about Bitcoin at a much higher frequency, right? Mm-hmm. So the big boys with big money, they're getting their reports back. They've done their due diligence. The boards are making decisions, and those decisions are in favor of Bitcoin. They're looking at an incoming president who gave a speech at the freaking convention for Bitcoin. This is all very, very bullish. And if you're coming into crypto for the first time, maybe you just got in December or November, this might feel scary. It might feel like, wait, am I getting a part of something that's a scam that's meant to hurt me? In the short term, you can be hurt by investing in this industry if you sell for a loss. In the long term, it's Tim and I's belief and what we've experienced that holding through these periods of FUD, this is why we have this YouTube channel at all, right? To help educate and guide people along, not to tell them exactly where to buy, exactly where to sell, because that's financial advice. That's not what we're interested in doing. We're helping be a guide and share what we know, our knowledge of these markets, the way that they work, the manipulative players, what their behaviors are at what time, to show you all it's all going to be okay. The ways you get wrecked are from your own self mismanaging risk, not because these assets aren't going higher.
Yeah, and it's one of those things you got to ask yourself right now, if Bitcoin crashed to sub 80,000, as we're talking about, if Bitcoin crashed to $78,000, $77,000, what would that mean to your portfolio, and what would that mean to your personal life? Could you financially withstand it? Would you be okay? Does that ruin everything in your life? And if that answer to the question is yes, that would ruin a lot of things. Go sell right now. Okay. This is the rough way to put it, but I'm trying to be as delicate as possible. If you can't stand the heat of the kitchen, if you can't stand the volatility of crypto, and if it would ruin you, your mental state, your financial state, everything else, get out of the kitchen. But if you could withstand it, if you can survive it, stay on in. These volatile moves are what actually make people wealthy. And even more so, what would happen to you if you sold right now and then everything goes to the upside? Because that possibility is still very, very real. What would you think about yourself? What would you think about your portfolio? Could you stomach and say, nope, I made the wise decision to sell, but I'll re-enter when there's confirmation in the market? If you can look at yourself in the mirror and say that, good. But I know so many people. I know people that get depressed when their bags go down. But you know another form of depression out there? When you sold the bottom thinking you knew the bottom was in, only to see the markets fly back to the upside. That's another form of depression. Can you survive that? Can you survive the concept of saying, you know what, I'm going to sell now, and if it goes back up, I might not buy back in until over $100,000, and I miss out on the gains between here and there. If you have the emotional maturity to do that and you can handle it and you think it's worth the risk, go ahead and sell. I don't think that's the likely outcome for us to go much lower. I don't think it's the wise move to sell right now. And I can't make your decision for you. I can't make the teacher's decision for you or for him. I can only tell you what I'm planning to do based off of my history and my lessons in the crypto space. And if you really want to get real with it, what I know about the crypto markets and what I've learned over the last 4.5 years that I've been here, it's coming up on 5 years. Holy crap. The more I've learned about money in general and where the world is going, the more bullish I've become on crypto, even if there's a major pullback. Let's pretend Bitcoin falls to 50,000. Let's pretend altcoins fall another 50, 60% from where they currently are at the moment. All that does to me is delays my long-term plans for financial wealth. But I'm not putting my hope, I'm not running back to the US dollar and saying I want to hold the US dollar long-term. I was actually talking with a friend about this the other day. Every day, my job, and I'm so grateful to get to provide for my family, provide for my wife, my son, keep a roof over my head, feed my family, plan for the future by talking crypto and talking economy and researching it. But do you know how depressing it really gets when you look at our world right now? I mean, we have the largest fire in California we've seen in 30 years, and there's question marks about who's actually involved there. We're not touching that topic here on this show. We are watching drones in New Jersey that have so many questions about what's going on there. We're not going to touch that topic on the show. We are watching manipulation and corruption all over the places. We're watching murders and hijacks and all. The world is a depressing place when you do nothing but stare at the world. But you have to understand there's got to be some sort of hope out there. And I want to start, before I keep saying this, is saying if your hope is even in Bitcoin, if your hope is in Donald Trump, if your hope is in any politician, if your hope is in a government of any kind, whether you get let down this year or next year or 20 years from now, I promise you'll be let down. As long as your hope and faith is in worldly people and worldly things, it's only a matter of time before you let down. The only true hope, if you want true joy and peace, is Jesus, right? I have to start by saying that. The only hope you can have to have a peaceful life, the only reason I'm still here and I haven't fallen off a cliff yet, is because my hope is in Jesus, not in the American government or in Bitcoin. But in the financial world, I'm going to transition here, got a little spiritual. In the financial world, what I'm looking at the corruption of the US dollar. I'm looking at the corruption of how wealth is handled all over the place. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are the last hope at financial stability. I hear people tell me all the time, I have friends and family that say, Tim, what would you do with all your massive cryptocurrency if tomorrow the grid goes out and we go into World War III? I would lose everything in my wealth. Do you think if the grid goes out tomorrow that money is our biggest concern? Not one bit. If I lose my entire wealth in Bitcoin, it's because something really bad happened and money's not a big deal. Simply surviving is the big deal. But if we have a hope of returning to financial stability, if we have a hope of getting to a place where you can not be born into a massive amount of wealth, but still provide and create that wealth for you, Bitcoin and crypto is one of the last things out there. So when you ask me, someone said, Tim, if you're not bearish now and you're not bearish to 78,000, where are you bearish? What price causes you to sell your cryptocurrency? And my price is 0. Some of you are in that same boat. Some of you are not. If Bitcoin goes to 0, will I be financially ruined? Yes. But my thoughts are if Bitcoin goes to 0, the world's got bigger problems than just money problems. But Bitcoin is my last hope at actually seeing a financial stability come back into this world. So there's my soapbox for the day. I want to read some chat here and engage with you guys, see what you guys are saying. We got some super chats in here. Starting off with Dennis Lovelace. He said, dudes, whiff. I don't know if that's an acronym for something. What the fudge? What the fudge? Is it ever going to back to all-time highs? I'm cooked. Dennis, it is. And I feel your pain. I rode that pain of saying, what's going to happen last cycle, right? Summer of 2021. Anyone first bull market, last bull market? Do you remember how you felt in the summer of 2021? Yeah, I was cooked. I felt really bad. And even though we didn't go a lot higher to new all-time highs, we did hit new all-time highs. It was just about holding on. Yave Canales says, I believe they're trying to time the market and giving themselves an opportunity to sell when they believe Bitcoin peaks in the cycle and then buy back when the available funds to add to strategic reserve. All right. So I believe they're trying to time the market and giving themselves. Yeah. Okay. So you're pretty much saying they sold and they're going to try to buy back in and they can add more. I don't think that's what the DOJ is doing. Okay. If you're talking about the DOJ right there, I think you are going to see entities like BlackRock and other manipulative players take some profit at certain times and look to buy the dip. And then with the news that they control, they can manipulate the feelings and emotions of the average retail investor. That's that thing. When it comes to DOJ, there's so much we could get into trouble with talking about this. Here's what I'll say. We said all this. Let's pretend they do sell, because we haven't talked about this aspect of it. If they do sell, and that's still an if at this point, they have not sold, to my knowledge, at this point, a single Satoshi. But if they did, that's not just a big FU and middle finger to the incoming president and his cabinet, Donald Trump. That's clearly an FU to Donald Trump, but that I would go even further to say, we'll survive it. Don't worry about it. That's an FU to the American people. If the DOJ sells a single Satoshi, after everything that we've had to go through as American people over the last 4 years, heck, over the last lots of years, let's go 100. That's an FU to the American people. That is the clearest FU we've ever seen. What does that mean, though? Like I said, I think worst case scenario, that's a drop to 78,000. And then you're absolutely right. We get an inauguration here in a week and some change. We see BlackRock buy up the dip. We see the American government buy up the dip. Heck, we didn't talk about it in this news, but we talked about, we're seeing news, the next 4 years, there's plans. We'll see if they're able to accomplish it, but there's plans to try to get the American people, the American government, to own close to, if not over, 1 million Bitcoin. I think currently they're at 100 and something thousand. Fact check me on that one. I don't know that number off the top of my head, but there's a massive desire for the government to add back in. However, the DOJ, if they are selling, if they are going to sell this Bitcoin, it goes that route to crash the price, everything's going to be okay. But let's not pretend like that is not an FU to Donald Trump, an FU to the American people. We don't care about anyone else. We just want to see the world burn. Speaking of things burning right now, I'm going to stop before I get into trouble on YouTube. T-shirt, go on camera and talk, because I got to take a sip of water and not get us demonetized.
No, Tim, you're doing great, and everything you're saying is right on. I mean, it's tough to envision a world where the Democratic Party is able to have a stab at getting elected in 2028 if Joe Biden were to sell. Now, he's probably, realistically, and not to be morbid, he's probably not going to be a big player politically around that time. Let's be fair, right? So could he potentially do it? And he's the commander in chief. Sell, press the big red button, sell the Bitcoin, right? I think that if they were going to do it, it is going to be all at one time. That's kind of why we have a crypto crash warning. It is a little bit of a scary time. However, it would be way too damaging to the Democratic Party, I believe, because how could you? It's just handing the Republican Party this golden platter of a political talking point of, okay, you're running for office in not just president, right, but for state level, for local level as a Democrat. Why did your leader sell this Bitcoin that years from now will be the bedrock of the financial world, right? Similar to how the 10-year Treasury is today. Right? It's going to be too strong of a talking point. It will be seen as the wrong side of history. Now, could they still do it? Right? It's not a 0% chance. I think if they are going to do it, it's all going to be all at one time, because if they were to start to sell, there would be a sell-off, right? It wouldn't be weak hands selling at that point. It would be folks who are making a somewhat prudent decision, because there would be a prolonged downswing, in my opinion, for financial forecasting, right? But they're not gonna. I don't think it's in their interest. I think at this point they're so much more focused on what the incoming president is going to do in a lot of other avenues. There's probably a handful of aides that are even remotely concerned with what's going on in Bitcoin, the Bitcoin world right now. And if those aides know what's good for them, they're not thinking that they should sell. I think right now, the White House is not concerned with Bitcoin. They have a lot bigger priorities, and it's just not on the radar. The reason why we're getting this DOJ headline is, again, it's a convenient time for the media and for financial interests to trot this out to try to push Bitcoin lower during a period of a natural correction lower, right? We've gotten up, put in a new all-time high. Of course, what goes up has to come down. We found support around 90K. And so, we're in that channel. And of course, if I'm a rich and powerful and influential market participant, when we hit the lows, I'm going to see how much lower I can push it so that I can buy it at a continued discount. If you could go to the grocery store and buy your favorite, and look for your favorite cereal, and you could go to the manager and say, hey, I really like these Cocoa Puffs, but I don't want to pay $4. I'm actually going to spread lies around the town that the Cocoa Puffs are poisoned. And so then I can buy them at $2 instead of $4. That's what's going on here, right? Is there a small chance that that's not what's going on? Potentially, but the market climbs a wall of worry. There's always a small chance that another 2008 housing crisis is right around the corner. There's always a chance that there's a global pandemic or there's something really scary right around the corner. But you have to keep investing. You have to keep buying the dips. And if you look at anybody who's made a lot of wealth in their time, they kept reinvesting, whether it's a stock market, real estate, their own coin laundry business that they're scaling, the education of their children. You have to constantly reinvest even when it feels like the darkest hour. And believe me, this is far from the darkest hour for Bitcoin.
Yeah, let's get back in here. Let's read some chat. I see some people asking about altcoins. We're not going to do altcoins today. We will be back next week doing altcoins. If you guys are in our memberships, over in Discord, we talk altcoins all the time. T-shirt will be going live for a Q&A here right as soon as this show is over. He'll talk altcoins. Today on YouTube is not altcoin day. I'll save you some time, though. Choose your altcoin, and I'll tell you we're sitting on some major support at the moment. Could go up, could go down. Really depends on what the next move for Bitcoin is. We are in follow the leader mode right now. Does Bitcoin bleed? Alts will bleed as well. Does Bitcoin rally? Alts will rally as well. If it rallies, I do think altcoins outpace it. If it falls, I think altcoins could outpace it. Let's get this super chat here from Denmar. Said BlackRock and other big bosses will not allow to dump Bitcoin because the world is looking at them, so their name is on the game and big money is not in yet. Den, I 100% agree with you to an extent of saying they won't let it drop to a certain level, right? 28%. Again, I'm saying this because I think that we're about to bounce, right? I think that I agree with you, and I think they're about to bounce price. Let's pretend the price goes to 78,000, and we hit that head and shoulders, and we go down 28%. We've already seen during active Bitcoin ETFs the price go down 30%. They're not going to let it go down 50% at this point. They're not going to let it go back 60, 70, 80%. They're not going to let it crash and burn because you're right. Their name's attached to it, at least yet. They're not going to let that happen yet. But a good reason to think we're bullish. I liked what Blue said earlier in chat as well. Not the color. There's a guy in here named Blue. He said the good news is that when we all start talking bearish like this, things start to bounce. And that is true. We're not powerful enough for this to happen, right? We are a fast-growing channel. We have, again, over 2,000 people watching right now. Only 500 likes, though, so let's smash the like button if you guys are enjoying the show. Thank you for tuning in here if you did. I have heavily thought about that, though. I was like, wouldn't it be funny if a larger account did positive manipulation, right? They every time that the price was going down, they just got super bearish. And they would know, we're about to go bullish. But the whole thing is, when everyone gets bearish, price often goes to the upside. When everyone gets overly bullish, price often goes to the downside. I've said this before again. If you're newer here, welcome. So glad you're here. I, by no means, get everything right. We have a very long list of times Tim has been wrong. But there's a long list of times Tim was right as well. And you want to know the times that I've been the most right? It's been when everybody else is saying this. You can't see my hand. Everyone else is saying this. And then I come over here and say this. I told people, back when we set new all-time highs, back early, before the halving, so I guess March. Back in March, I said, hey, guys, we're overextended here. Bitcoin probably needs to pull off 20 to 30%. It needs to cool off and go back down. I got called bearish. I got called super bear. I was called all kinds of names. Sure enough, we came back down. When we got above 100,000, I told people, hey guys, 15 to 20% at the least is what we should be seeing. People said I was crazy, and it took a lot longer for it to happen, but sure enough, we've come back down here. My overall point here is I don't have the power to be the guy that goes in different directions. I can't be like the guy that goes super bearish and all of a sudden that's the bottom, or be super bullish and that's the top. But I wonder if a larger account could do that. So I should, like someone like, not to throw them out here, and they have great content. So, but Altcoin Daily, I feel like Altcoin Daily might be powerful enough that they could think like, we're on support. Let's purposely create bearish content, knowing we're wrong, but so that we can flip the whole script. But how do you communicate with your audience? Hey, this is kind of a wrong. I'm purposely kind of moving. I don't know. You get into a lot of craziness, but I've had that thought before. It's when everyone turns bearish that things go bullish, and when everyone turns bullish, everything goes bearish. And right now, a lot of people are turning bearish, and I think that's a positive sign. Trump will moon the crap out of Bitcoin. MAGA, says Dennis. I agree with you. I think he will. Again, have you guys go back on our channel? If you're new here, thank you so much for being here. I made a video a couple of days ago, and it needs more views. It's a great video, great content. Go in and watch it. The premise of the video, though, is 5 reasons why the Bitcoin bull market or the crypto bull market will not end in 2025. Nothing from that video. No details have changed. I wouldn't go back to any point of the video and say, like, ooh, yeah, that point's wrong. It is all still as true right now as it was last week. Go watch that video. It's very, very good. And it's reasons why, again, not only is 2025 going to be bullish, I think we keep going past 2025. Someone says keep being honest. Trust me, like, I couldn't. The whole thing I just said about trying to trick it, I couldn't do it. I don't think I'd have the ability to come on here and purposely lie to anybody. So I will still be honest. You guys will still see me be the contrarian in the room. Again, I'm not going to get everything right. There's going to be times where I get bullish and things go down. There's going to be times where I'm bearish and things go up. But I will always come on here and give you my honest opinion. Right, wrong, or different, I will always give you my honest opinion. So will T-Shroom, so will Smay, so will Crux. This is a good time. We're going to transition away. Tomorrow, we're not going to have a live show. We're not going to be live tomorrow because we will be going, the 4 of us, so me, T-Shroom, and Smay. Show yourselves on. Smay, go ahead and put the 3-person camera. These 3 right here. And then, of course, some of you guys know Crux. Crux is going to be the main face of our new channel coming out starting next week called Alpha Bros. Whereas we focus on charts over here and a lot of macro news, Alpha Bros will be dedicated to a fundamental and very niche topics on details of larger coins and small caps. If you want to go deeper in the crypto space and understand the fundamentals, you want to be a part of Algo Bros. But the 4 of us are going to Tennessee into the snow next week. We're leaving tomorrow to do some year-long planning on how we want to structure things in the business, things we want to grow, different ways we can help our community and grow our influence in the space. But because of that, we're all traveling during the showtime tomorrow. Some of us on planes, some of us in cars. There will be no live show tomorrow or Saturday, but we will be in Tennessee. We'll have a show Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday, no show because we're leaving again, and then we'll be back Thursday, Friday. That being said, tomorrow I am going to be releasing episode 1 of a new series called Rate My Portfolio. Tomorrow at 3 p.m., a video will be going out. I will be reviewing a friend of mine's portfolio he gave me, giving it ratings, giving it feedback. It should be very entertaining. You guys should like it. But if you want to get your portfolio reviewed by Rate My Portfolio, make sure to join our Discord and comment at us in Discord. We can set up a private chat. We'll create a way to talk to you, but you can let us see your portfolio. You break it down, what it looks like. You can tell us to shout you out, or you want to stay anonymous. But we're going to start a new series called Rate My Portfolio. Episode 1 will be coming out tomorrow at 3 p.m. That being said, let's go ahead and do our factoid of the day and call it a day for today. Thank you again to everyone who's here. If you do want to leave right now because you're not a factoid person, that's fine. You should stay. They're a lot of fun. But smash the like and hit subscribe before you leave. Smay, I throw it to you, man. What you got for us today?
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Factoid of the Day, brought to you by Decrypted.tax, my favorite segment of the show. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's factoid. The now-defunct cryptocurrency exchange Mt. Gox was originally created for trading A. Vintage vinyl records, B. Magic the Gathering cards, C. Rare Pokemon cards, or D. Arcade tokens.
B. Bravo.
The only reason why I'm pretty sure it's B is because I think this was a detail that when I was with DZ over at Discover Crypto, and he would talk a lot. I'm pretty sure this is a conversation him and I had about Mt. Gox's history being Magic Gathering cards, because he used to play with that a lot.
I actually remember. Well, I'm giving it away. I do remember that conversation, though. Now that you mentioned it, Tim, I do. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I was aware of that. I don't know why, but
Shroom, you said B too, right? We're both leaning B.
I said B also. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go with B. People in chat think C, but I'm pretty stinking sure I remember a conversation with DZ where he said that he gave me that fun fact. Yeah.
Well, I'll just say, drum roll, it is no wonder that it ended up crashing and burning, because it is B, Magic the Gathering cards. So, guys, in case you didn't know, that means it's not a crypto exchange. So the fact that it became the premier crypto exchange should tell you that was doomed to fail from the start. But anyways, back to you guys.
There we go. Cut himself off mid-statement. You gotta love Smay. Gotta love Smay. And I gotta love getting the Factoid of the Day right, T-shirt. It's about time we're back in the win column. He had been tricking us here a little bit.
Yeah, we're just fart smellers. Smart fellers.
Yes. Well, guys, it's 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. We're going to wrap up today's show. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you haven't already, smash that like button, hit subscribe. Kind of wrapping our video in a nutshell, guys. It's a crazy market. Mm-hmm. If you financially cannot withstand a dip, take profit and get out. But if you can, hold on for dear life. The markets are trying to shake you out every single day. Stick with your long-term plan. Stick with the concept. Bet on Bitcoin. Don't bet on the dollar. Don't bet on the dollar. You're going to find a lot of pain, a lot of suffering down that road. Bitcoin is the future. Shakeouts like this are very, very normal. We love you guys. We will see some of you in the Q&A here shortly. The rest of you will see you Monday. Same time, same place. You guys have a great weekend. Adios.